Greetings from the Jazz Cloud. I'm Richie Zellen, and I'm happy to welcome you to the Jazz Guitar Channel. If you want to learn a new language, you need to listen to its native speakers, and you need to study its grammar, and you need to start by learning everyday idiomatic phrases that you can use. And that is exactly what we are going to explore in this lesson, not necessarily in relation to a spoken language, but instead to that of a music language. That is, the bebop language. And to accomplish this, I am going to teach you 18 phrases compiled from one of its most respected practitioners, Charlie Parker. When Bird wrote his compositions, he took many of the chord progressions associated with the standards of the day, and he wrote new heads over them, which were in essence bebop solos. And in the case of all those Charlie Parker heads, they are chock full of phrases that every bebop player uses. And that's because both the rhythmic and melodic essence of the bebop language are contained in those heads. And with that in mind, I have taken the time to go through many Charlie Parker heads and extracted 18 phrases that I believe are idiomatically representative of his style. Amazingly enough, when you adapt and play these phrases in a tune other than the one they were originally extracted from, they preserve their bebop identity. Next, I am going to play several of the phrases I'm going to teach you over the chord changes to the first 8 measures of Satin Doll. And this is not a tune Bird ever recorded, yet you'll notice that it will sound as it could have been written by him. That again is because those phrases embody the bebop language, regardless of the jazz standard they are played over. Here it goes. If you've been keeping up with my videos, you might recall that I recently posted a 3-part series titled 5 Practice Habits of Great Jazz Musicians. When I talked about how great jazz musicians practice portions of transcriptions, such as we are going to do with the phrases in this lesson, I explained how great musicians often modify them to fit various harmonic contexts. So in applying that concept to this lesson, the question is not, how will these licks make me sound like Charlie Parker? Instead, we should be asking, how do I take these Charlie Parker licks and make them my own? And the answer is simple, by adding our own twist to them. Of course, before we can do that, we need to learn the original phrase, understand its rhythmic and melodic makeup, and be able to perform it in any key, anywhere throughout the fretboard. That will in turn require that we work it out using various fingerings. So with that in mind, I'm going to teach you each phrase in 4 different keys and fingerings. I've transposed each phrase to the key of C for easy comparison. And what is cool about this is that sometimes you'll notice several similar elements in the makeup of these phrases. At this point, you'll hopefully have that aha moment, and you'll understand how to use those elements as the building blocks for your own phrases. So let's get started. Number 1, from Moose the Mooch, 2nd measure. And here he's thinking entirely over the 2 minor 7 chord, although you can insert the 5, 7, the dominant over the 2nd measure if you like, but I'm analyzing it from the perspective of the 2 minor chord. So over D minor, it goes like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And notice that he's playing a pure arpeggio descending from the flatted 7, flat 7, 5, flat 3, 1. And then he leaps back up to the flat 7. And he leaps up to the ninth using a chromatic approach before it. Okay, let's play this in F. That means we would be playing it over G minor 7 and C7, and it would go something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we were to play it in B flat, we could use this fingering, and it would be over C minor 7 and F7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And we can also play it here, resolving to E flat, and it would be over F minor 7 and B flat 7, and it would go like this. 2, 3, 4. From here on, when I analyze each lick, I want you to take note of 4 important elements that serve as the melodic building blocks of every Charlie Parker phrase. 3 of them were present in the first lick I just showed you, and they are: number 1, predominant use of arpeggios. Bird was always outlining the harmony in his lines, which is a trait of every great jazz improviser. He was thinking foremost not in scales, but instead in terms of the chord arpeggio of the moment. Number 2, frequent use of upper extensions preceded by a wide leap. And I am referring here to the use of 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths, which he frequently would leap up to from a lower chord tone and in this way make it stand out. Number 3, chord tones preceded by approach tones such as enclosures, and this is what is known as targeting. The remaining element, which we will also see, is number 4, the use of scales interspersed with chromatic passing tones. So learning how to peek under the hood is crucial if you want to reverse engineer these phrases to reassemble them as your own. So be patient and stick with me as I analyze each and every one of these bird licks, because they contain the essence of the bebop language. Number 2, from Moose the Mooch, third measure of the bridge. And this is over a major 2-5, and he could easily be thinking entirely over the 5 or dominant chord, or entirely over the 2 minor chord, but I'm analyzing it here as a 2-5. So it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. And he's playing very diatonically. When he goes to the G7, he's leaping up to the 13, a whole fifth, something Charlie Parker did a lot. Here it is being played, resolving to F. So over G minor and C7, it would be resolving to B flat. 1, 2, 3. Resolving to E flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I've shown you in these first 2 licks or phrases is the same procedure you can use to practice the remaining 16. However, to save time, since we have so much to cover, from here on I am only going to play each phrase in the key of C. To follow along in practice, I want to encourage you to download the 10-page PDF, which contains each lick with its melodic analysis notated in 4 keys, as well as the tab displaying 4 different fingerings. The download also includes MP3s of all the licks and a band-in-a-box file with all the material. It also includes all the files for the transcription of the initial Satin Doll example. And you can download all of this for a very small contribution. Please know that in doing so, you'll be helping support this channel, as these lessons require lots of time and effort to produce. Visit jazzguitar.richiezellen.com/premium and you'll find the 18 bebop licks from Charlie Parker Heads under solo transcriptions. Number 3, from Confirmation, second measure. And this is a minor 2/5. So the 2 chord is, in this case, D minor 7 flat 5. And the dominant is an altered chord, or it can be just a flat 9, Mixolydian flat 9 chord. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Would resolve normally here to a C minor. And notice that pure arpeggios for the first half here over the D minor 7 flat 5, and it's also entirely diatonic chord tones over the 5 chord. Root 3 flat 7, and then it would obviously resolve. Number 4, from Confirmation, second measure of the bridge. And this is a mixed 2/5. Whenever I say mixed 2/5, it means that the 2 minor chord is just a regular 2 minor Dorian-based chord, while the 5 chord, the dominant, is modal interchange from a minor tonality, and it's altered. So here we have D minor 7 and G7 altered, and it could resolve to a major 1 chord or minor chord. It goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, very diatonic. Flat 7, 1, flat 7. 5, flat 3, totally outlining the arpeggio for the first half. And then he gets heavy into the upper extensions over the altered dominant. But notice how immediately after he plays the flat 3 on the end of the 2 chord, the first half, he leaps up to the sharp 9. Classic Charlie Parker, always leaping up to an upper extension. Let's turn this into a minor 2/5, since all we have to do is flat the 5 on the first half of it, the D minor 7, and turn it into a D minor 7 flat 5. So it would be now we would be able to play it as Number 5, from Confirmation, 8th measure of the bridge. And this is a minor 2/5, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Starts out with 1, the root, goes down to the flat 5, to the flat 7, and there he's totally outlining the D minor 7 flat 5 chord. And then he goes to the G7 altered, and again he's really outlining the essence of that chord, which of course the flat 13 is very characteristic. The 3, very important, and the flat 9 and the 1. Number 6, from Anthropology, the 8th measure. And this is a major 2/5, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, pure arpeggio notes here for the first half for the D minor 7, 5, flat 3, flat 7, again the 5, and then the classic Charlie Parker leap at the end of the 2 chord. He leaps all the way up to the 13 on the 5 chord and to the 1. Let's turn this one into a minor 2-5. Let's just flat all the 5s so we can make it a D minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. And it would be like this. But let's also flat the 13 on the 5 chord to make that an altered chord, which would make it this. You can play and resolve to a minor. Number 7 from Dewey Square, the 7th measure of the bridge. And here he's thinking entirely over the 2 minor 7. Although you can insert the 5-7 chord in there, but we would probably have to conceive it as a G7 sus4 if we want to analyze it accordingly. So it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the first half of it is scale-based with chromatic passing tones. 5, chromatic, 4, chromatic, and here the second half, he really outlines the arpeggio. Flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, minor 9th arpeggio. Number 8 from Celerity, 2nd measure, and this again is a mixed 2-5, minor 7, Dorian based, and the 5-7 is altered. So it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It would resolve here. 2, 3, 4. The first half of it, as we can see, is just a pure minor 7th arpeggio. And then the second half, the altered chord, he always outlines the flatted 13 in there, leaps up to the 3rd. Let's turn this one entirely into a minor phrase by just flatting the 5 on that first half. And that would be simply now it would smoothly resolve to minor. 2, 3, 4. Number 9 from Celerity, measures 5 and 6. And here we have a complete major 2-5-1. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's very scalar in the beginning. 1, 2, flat 3, 4. Flat 3, and then it goes to the 13 on the 5 chord. 5, 3, 1, really outlining the chords there. And for the 1 major chord, the C major 7. Also very diatonic, except for maybe one little chromatic approach there. Number 10, from She Wrote, number 1, second measure. And this one's over a 1 major 7 chord entirely. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And this is very diatonic, and he's just simply doing a chromatic approach at the very beginning to the 3 and then following it up with the major 7th arpeggio. Going to the 2 or the 9, root, major 7, ending on the 13. We can change this one into a dominant or mixolydian phrase by simply turning all the 7ths into flatted 7ths, and it would sound like this. 3, 4, 1. So that's how you recycle all these phrases and adapt them to different contexts. Number 11, also from She Wrote number 1, and this is the first measure of the bridge, and it's a major 2-5. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And basically he's just playing a pure minor 7 arpeggio for the first half. Actually, it's a 9th arpeggio. And then for the second half, for the dominant chord, he's just playing the scale descending from the root. 1, flat 7, 6, 5. And we can turn this one into a minor 2-5. And let's flat the 5 on that first half. And for the second half, we want to make that an altered, so we'll go. Okay, number 12 from an Oscar for Threadwell, and this is the 8th measure, and this one's a mixed 2-5 again, over 1 measure, 2 chord being regular minor 7 Dorian based, and the 5-7 being an altered or flat 9 chord. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here over the first half, as usual, he outlines the chord arpeggio notes. Flat 3, flat 7, 9, and then he anticipates what would be the 5th of the dominant, in this case G7. Then he goes to tritone down, very nice, to the flat 9. And then he leaps up from that extension to the 13. And the last note he plays here would be the 3. Number 13 from Constellation measures 29 and 30. And this is a 2-measure phrase. It's actually going from a dominant to a 1 chord. So it's a 5-1 cadence. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing to that. Just a few chromatics in there. Chromatic approaches. Chromatic to the 9, flat 7, chromatic to the 13, and then a resolution over the 1 chord, 9-1 or 2-1. Number 14 from Donna Lee, measure 8. Here's another mixed 2-5, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, for the first half, he's got the arpeggio, a ninth arpeggio over the minor seventh chord, and then he plays the flatted 13 and the 3 over the 5 altered. Two of the most representative notes of that chord. Let's turn that to minor by just flatting the fifth on that D minor, and it would simply be. So now we can play. Number 15 from Kim measures 5 and 6 of the bridge. And here he's thinking over the 5-7 for 2 measures, but if you like, you can think of it over a 2-5. So this one has a 3-note enclosure to the 3 starting out, 4-2, and chromatic resolving to the 3. It goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And basically, the first half is full of chromatic approaches, and the second half begins with the scale from the flat 7, 6, 5, 4, and then he ends it with a dominant ninth arpeggio. Number 16 from cloth stance measures 7 and 8. And here it appears as if he was thinking entirely over the 5-7 chord, although I've analyzed it as being the D minor 7 for the first half of the first measure. This is a 2-measure phrase. And then analyzing it over the 5-7 chord, which he could have been anticipating from that point on until the end of the phrase. It's impossible to know what he was thinking, but it's one or the other. So it goes like this. 2, 3, 4. So a lot of arpeggio notes there, other than the initial enclosure. And for the second half, he kind of turns it into an altered chord. But then he goes back, natural 9, flat 7, 5, 13. So it's a mixture of both. Number 17, also from Klon stance. This is measures 3 and 4. And this is a 2-measure mix 2-5. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the first half is very scale-oriented with some chromatic approaches. And again, the second half over the dominant chord, it's really arpeggio-based. 3, 5. Flat 7, flat 9, 1, and then the second half of this measure is scale-based. Another thing we see him doing a lot is playing one portion over a given chord using the arpeggio, and then the next half using the scale. And finally, number 18, from cardboard, measure 8 of the bridge. And this is 1 measure 2-5. And I think he could easily be just thinking over the 5-7 chord here. But let me play it over a 2-5 anyways. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, he's really using a lot of extensions here if he were thinking over the D minor 7 chord, because flat 3, the 11th, and the 9th. But if he were thinking over the G7 entirely, that would be the flatted 7 root, 13 chromatic, and of course 5, 4, and the usual arpeggio. He always tends to include the arpeggio somewhere in the phrase, always outlining the harmony. That is the crucial lesson to be learned here. If you just learn one thing from all these phrases, is we need to imply the harmony. And for those of you who are still with me, I sincerely hope this lesson has provided you with a deeper insight of the bebop language, and I hope you will start incorporating this material into your playing. As usual, I appreciate your likes and comments, and if you enjoyed this lesson and haven't subscribed to the Jazz Guitar channel yet, well, you're only a click away. I'm Richie Zellen, and it's time to say, hasta la vista, stay safe, peace be with you, shalom.